commune. We take it in turns to act as a sort of executive officer for the week.
Yes.
But all the decisions of that officer have to be ratified at a special bi-weekly meeting.
Yes, I see.
By a simple majority in the case of purely internal affairs.
Be quiet.
But by a 2/3 majority in the case of
Be
more
quiet. I order you to be quiet. Look, you stupid bastard, you've got no arms left. Yes, I have. Look. Just a flesh wound.
I don't believe I've seen such a display of courage, skill, nerve, grace, stupidity.
I'll do you for that. Oh, what? Come here. What are you going to do, bleed on me? I'm invincible.
You're a loony.
The Black Knight always triumphs.
Welcome on, welcome all, and it is that time for Roundtable Live here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Be rolling on until 4 a.m. in the morning Eastern time. New ideas, different hosts every night, different subjects every night. You never know what's going to happen right here at the Roundtable Live. King Arthur has nothing on us. We're going round and round.
West Coast of Orange County, California. From the Pacific perspective to the Atlantic perspective. From liberal craziness to conservative idealism. From Christianity to atheism belief systems. Welcome to the TheGrayZone RoundTable with Rectify and Wingman at Revolution Radio. freedomslips.com.
Revolution-radio.com.
And what's up, all the good peeps of Revolution Radio? This is Rectify. Welcome to the TheGrayZone RoundTable. Happy Monday or Tuesday morning around the world. I miss you all. Haven't been around for a couple shows, but I wanted to thank Seth Michael from Second Foundation. You can find every Sunday, midnight Eastern Standard Time. Wanted to thank Jer Bear also and Just in Time, all for helping production. And Wingman, of course. My Wingman, what's going on, brother?
Yeah, how's it going? Good to hear from you. I was going to say see you, but it's mostly hear you. Yeah, no, not too bad, thanks.
How were the shows?
I don't know. I don't like doing it much on my own.
Any
so
interesting callers?
You'd have to ask everyone else, but I don't know. Everyone else seems to think they're all right, but I am always disappointed myself. But there we go. Set myself high standards.
I don't like listening to myself on the air either. I don't like replaying it and judging. So I keep that aside, I'll put the archives up for everybody else. Speaking of our archives, you can find us on YouTube at the TheGrayZone Radio. That's Gray with an A. And you can also find all the rest of our great hosts over at Talk Revolution Radio at YouTube. And also thank you, Noreen at Wild at Heart Roundtable. She's on right before us. Great roundtable, as always. You always get a influx of callers, and I'm jealous. But, yeah, thanks for the shout-out. And we're also joined by Red Shifty Casey, a good friend of ours. How you doing, Casey? How's North Carolina tonight?
Hot.
How hot is hot?
Well, yesterday it was 101, and it's 90 plus humidity. At this point, I think it's probably like 78, but I'm still hot.
So you're in and out of the shower like all day long, basically.
I have a bathtub with ice in it that I use for relief when I've been cleaning the house today, because there's no amount of air that I guess helps with that much humidity.
Right, you would think it would help, like a swamp cooler type deal, like when you get a towel wet and throw it in front of a fan. You would think it would help, but I guess not.
Not substantially enough. I just take ice breaks, I suppose.
Let me say hi to everybody in the chat room. You know, it's been a while here. Nighthawk, the owner of the station. What's up, brother? He's got a birthday coming up.
Is that the 26th or the 27th?
Both. The party's both.
My daughter's the 27th. That's what I was wondering.
I think his might be the 26th, actually.
I would give my birthday up, but that would mean I'd be traceable. I like my anonymity.
You know what? I don't have a birthday. It's all hearsay.
10-4.
So, I don't have a last name either. I have a surname. Well, we've been joined by Wally. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, Rectify. Good hearing you. I'm doing fantastic. I have 2 eyes. 20/25 vision.
Right on, man. So your right eye went well.
Yep. And the left eye I just had surgery last Monday on my left eye. My right eye was a month prior to that.
That's brilliant news. That's fantastic. I know you were worried about it last time I spoke with you. I remember throwing a few things out there that I'd read about your condition, and so you've got it sorted. That's incredible. Well, both eyes sorted, or just the one? Did you say?
Both eyes.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. Both eyes. The only thing I remember, she said to me when they took me into the room where he does the work in the microscope, said, "Don't talk, don't cough. You got itch, tell us." But they didn't want me to talk, so. But anyways, about 2 seconds after she plugged me into the anesthesia, I was out. The first time I remember opening an eye, I think it was the eye he was working on because I seen him clearly. And all he said is, "Wally, I'm working with a microscope. Don't talk, don't say nothing. We'll be done in a few minutes." The next thing I remember is the nurse asking me, "Do you want coffee or juice?" And I said, "I'd like both, please." And that was my first eye. And the second eye went the same. Just couldn't lift anything for a week over 10 pounds, and they didn't want me bending over because they didn't want the lens to shift. So
it's a week recovery time.
You just can't lift something or bend over because they don't want that lens to shift that they replace behind the retina.
Mm-hmm. It needs to set in place.
Yeah. So.
Can you see clearly right after surgery?
Oh, yeah. Well, because you got a little swelling, so you're just a little bit blurry, but colors are vivid. I mean, I'm looking out in my front yard facing the river, and that forest has just waken up. I mean, with the greens, the different tones of greens, the blue water, the blue sky. I mean, it's like I seen when I was a baby.
So it was blue. It wasn't full of chemtrails.
Oh, no. Michigan, we have not had that many chemtrails compared to, Mother tells me in Florida, the chemtrails are just crisscrossing the sky. I might see one vapor trail that doesn't dissipate right away. If it doesn't dissipate within a half hour, I know that's a chemtrail.
Right. Let me give out our number. This is a round table. Someone in chat said it's actually more of a square table because of the bad weather going around, but our number here is 347-688-2902. That's 347-688-2902, or if you have Skype, which is a much cleaner signal to get on the air with, you can Skype us at Freedom Screen. That's screen like a screen door. That's all one word. But go ahead, Wally. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just, it's wonderful to see, and I thank everybody for their thoughts, and I tried the natural way, but they were just too far gone, and this way I'm back on my feet again. But I sent you a little note this morning. I was thinking about you this morning, Rectify. I hadn't heard from you in a while, and I just kind of said hello on your Skype page, and
First time I've logged in probably 2.5 weeks.
Wow, I was thinking about you today. You did a fantastic job. My computer's still running just fine.
Right on. Good to hear that, man.
So, I just wanted to send a little shout out. I got a dentist appointment at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, so I can't stay on for your whole show, but I just wanted to say hi, and I'm glad, Casey, you were here. Hi. I'm hoping I'm praying everything's going good for you and keeping you in my thoughts.
Thanks. Yeah, it's going. It's getting along.
It's up and downs, peaks and valleys, right?
Yeah, we just have to stay positive, though, and just put the positiveness out there in everything we say and do, so, yeah.
So, yeah, I've got a couple interesting stories. Wingman, you got anything on your mind about cataracts and eye surgery?
Well, I just would imagine he feels $1 million. I can't imagine. I mean, obviously, sight is a very dependable sense, and I guess we take it for granted, right?
I was down to a quarter vision. I mean, I was the lowest I could go without being blind.
I'd say, Wingman, to that comment, that more things in this world take advantage of our eyes than we take advantage of our eyes. Or take them for granted. There's lots of deception out there.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's, I think, not just yourself, but there's a lot of people that suffer, whether it be in your eyesight or, in my case, something's gone wrong with my hip this week, and I had to ask a stranger for painkillers in the street because I couldn't make it back home walking. Wow. And something simple like that, but yet, whilst everything's fine, you take it for granted, but as soon as an ailment comes across you and it's painful, it's not nice.
Debilitating.
I know it's obviously I'm saying the obvious, but it's just that, I think we underestimate it's debilitating, it's demoralizing, and it's not nice. And I guess to some extent this is why health is so important and should have so much priority. Health, education, and the fire service. These are really fundamental, and food, obviously. Because without any of those things being a priority.
Transportation.
Mobility.
But I'd have to say health and education is just like, you cannot mess with those. You cannot mess with them. They have to always have the highest priority. When you start denying people health and they're suffering, I mean, this is wrong. This is just plainly wrong.
And for 21, good old Wingman, man.
And for any politician or any doctor or any so-called expert to tell you otherwise, they're lying. They're covering something up. They're covering their own tracks. They're covering their own assets. They're covering their own bottom line profit. There is no excuse. This is it. There is no excuse with regards to any shortcomings on the health front. There is no excuse, bar none, Everyone is entitled to it, and everyone is entitled to the subjugation of pain, the control of pain, whether it be through natural remedies, which should be offered. One of the things that I was listening to a radio program here in the UK not long ago, and they were talking about, the problem with cancer waiting lists. There's a big waiting list for cancer. But one of the things that is not offered to cancer patients in the UK is natural remedies. I mean, there are some natural remedies that have been proven to have an effect on cancer patients that haven't taken up chemotherapy. Now, that choice should be offered to the individual. If it were offered to the individual, would be able to monitor the success rates of those choices, firstly, and also the waiting lists that exist would be vastly reduced.
Yeah, but the profit margins would go so far down.
Well,
the big pharmaceuticals wouldn't make any money on it.
Yeah, selling sickness. You guys, I've got to bounce for a little bit. I'll be back in a bit.
All right.
Okay. And so, at some point, we do need to say, no, it's not profit. It's not people over, profit over people. It's people over profit. And we need to keep repeating that like parrots, people over profit, people over profit, people over profit. Because as long as it's profit over people, there will be people that are in pain and suffering and agony and are hurting and crying and, and so on and so forth. And there will be people that are just neglected and left in the sidelines and just treated as a number because they don't have the appropriate health insurance, because because they've had previous ailments, or they've not declared something that they weren't even aware of that happened to them 1,500 years ago, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it can't be that way. We're not numbers. We're not a number. And as long as it's profit over people, we'll be treated as a number.
Speaking of numbers, go ahead, Wally.
I was just going to say to Wingman, I didn't have the money for my eyes. They wanted between $6,200 and $6,800 per eye, U.S. dollars. And where am I going to get $12,000 to get my eyes fixed? So I went down. I wasn't working. I couldn't work because I couldn't see. So I figured, well, I've paid into Medicare and Medicaid, and I went down to Medicare and said, hey, I'm not working. I have absolutely no money coming in. I'm going blind. She says, well, you need to fill out a form on the computer. I says, well, I can't see the computer. So they sent someone over to help me. And all of a sudden, I call the eye care place, and I tell them what I've done, and they sent me this card, and the lady says, well, just a minute, read me the number on that card. And I read her the number on the card, and, she said, you're all set to come in for cataract surgery. And I go, whoa, nice. And that's where it started, but it's through the state that paid for my eyes. So it was a blessing, and I have to return that blessing, but working all the years I've worked, I've paid into that system, so I just got something out of it.
Your dentistry tomorrow, is that the same coverage?
No, I'm being a graphic artist. I do all the lettering on his boat, his racer that races from Chicago. So I just trade off my services for that.
Sweet.
So I was just wondering if the number on the card that you were reading was the number of people that apply for financial help versus the number of people that actually get it.
Well, Wingman, I was really surprised that I got $180 a month in food stamps. I told the lady, I don't want these. She said, you're going to raise too much static. You're on the food supplement for 6 months. At the end of the 6 months, I'm sure your income's going to change. And she says, do it then. Don't do it now. You'll screw the whole system up if you try to drop out of it now. So, I'm not one that's going to stay on, Medicaid and, or Medicare and, the food stamp program.
I've never received benefits in my life, but since my wife is struggling, since I've been a little ill, I filled out, all the forms to get food stamps, and I got a notice of action, food stamps denial, because one little detail of all the questions they ask you, they ask who's in your household, and I included my wife, right? And who prepares meals for your wife, that person. Well, I did, and that disqualified me for some reason.
Oh.
Yeah. I know. For those, I've got to say, this is going to sound crazy, but it's just the way things are. With regards to all these forms and these hoops that you have to jump through, be careful how honest you are, because it will backfire. So, yes, normally honesty is the best policy in the normal day-to-day interaction of people and friends and family and even strangers to some extent. But when it comes to the hoops that you have to jump through, what they're looking for is to trip you up with just one thing or two things to reject your application, to prevent your application from going through, to prevent, denial of service, denial of this, denial of that. So you've got to be really careful, what you say, because it just takes one thing. One, like on the health insurance application, you had, maybe you were diabetic when you were a kid, or maybe you had asthma when you were a kid, or or you had some antidepressants 5 years ago. You got to be careful. And if you did have it, especially with regards to the health thing, if it's with your doctor, then in that respect, if it's on your medical record, it probably is best to be honest, because if you don't declare it in that respect, then it will bite you in the ass later on with regards to health insurance, because they're very, what happens if you have an application, they'll go through a whole list of history of all your previous ailments, and also even if you make a claim and then receive the monies from them, what happens is they have another team to go through all the historical claims and check if there's anything they can get you on. Now, I know that sounds scandalous, but that's what they do. They'll go through your medical records. They'll check if you didn't declare something, They're
grabbing all kinds of metadata. They make sure, they can triangulate now, verify your location of your residence, through all this process. And you're on a list. It's kind of like the medical marijuana list. I stay away from all that stuff because I know about lists, and I know once you're on a list, it might seem all good and peachy now, but when a regime change happens, where's all that information going to be in the hands of, what kind of psycho? So that's always, so I take this notice of denial as I should have listened to my gut to begin with and just, struggle it through right now and not bend over for the feds. So.
Well, you've paid for that Rectify. Don't think you're getting anything for nothing. Your years of working, you've paid into that. So that's nothing that, I would question that. I can't see that being a question for denial, for instance. I don't know how California works, but Michigan, and it's, if it's just 6 months, go on it for 6 months, and, because you qualify every 6 months, and if everything changes in 6 months, then just put on there, this is what I make, and the food stamp program will drop away. So,
You actually went to the location. See, I did this online.
If I could have seen, I could have done it online. I just got that fly.
But see, these people at the locations probably know exactly the ins and outs.
What I did, when I went to the location, they sat down at a computer with me and did everything online. There was just some lady sitting at a folding card table there. There was a security officer. Why, I don't know. I think someone's going to steal a food stamp card. They don't even have them there. And there were people coming in and out that were whatever you call it, their caregiver or whatever, their liaison, I can't remember, caseworker. They were coming in and out with food, and people were coming in, they were giving them food. And I never, like I said, I never signed up for the food stamp. But when they read everything that I filled out in the report, they sent a letter stating you qualify for food stamps. It's something changed. And I just wrote no and sent it back in, a copy of my bank account. And the next thing I know, I've got a card with $180 on it. And every month, 5th or the 6th of the month, another $180 gets put on it.
To a lot of people, that doesn't sound like a lot of money, but
that's
that
one
helps
person
right there.
$180 is for one person. 2 people, I think it's almost double that a month. So I would question and find out why. I can't believe that'd be a disqualification. Because it's on your finances what it goes by. And you should qualify for something. If you made $1,500 a month, you would qualify for $15 worth of food stamps.
Here's the thing, though. I've been a contractor, self-employed contractor since about 2002.
Yeah.
So I really haven't put into any of that stuff. So they probably looked at that and said, "Oh no." Even though I've been working since I was 15 and a half, I've had over 13 different jobs.
That's disheartening. That must be disheartening when you've given that, so much in tax over to the tax man, and you just get shafted like that, and it's just like, that can't be a nice feeling. I mean, do you feel a little bit betrayed?
Well, of course, I feel like a slave.
Yeah.
I feel like if you can't afford your health, then you deserve to die. That's how these people see us.
When was last time you paid any taxes on your income?
2001.
That's what you would have been paying into when you were paying income tax.
Yeah.
That's what you'd be covering it. So I'd go check again, rectify. I would question it. There might have been something wrong there, or they need to, clarify that. Am I making too much money? I'm not making any money, or, whatever.
Yeah.
Someone's got a bug buzzing around their mic.
Not me, I don't think.
Oh,
hold on. Is it? I muted, so it wasn't me. I think it might be. But anyway, I was going to say, the problem also is that if you look at the Georgia Guidestones, which is obviously a clue of intent, there's a conflict of interest with regards to the rate of procreation versus how many people are still alive. So there is this obvious callous effort, and I've seen it over here in the UK as well, with regards to attempts to not be so concerned with health, not be so concerned with law enforcement, and and the same with medicine, and to kind of facilitate or increase the death rate. Now that is a very callous thing to do. Rather than tackle the problem of procreation, which can be tackled, but no one's bold enough to tackle it, you see, they're coming at another angle and allowing for the depopulation, if you like, or the slowing down, or even the mass death of what hopefully was not to come, but we don't know what their intent is. So this conflict of interest is obviously a real problem, and it goes to what I was saying about profit over people again. Now, there is a way of controlling the world population. There is a way of managing our food resources. But it's just that we haven't had a leader who is bold enough to say, okay, these are the measures I'm going to introduce with regards to population control. And these are the measures I'm going to introduce with regards to making people self-sufficient, teaching people about hydroponics, about gardening, etc., allowing the release of certain patents with regards to free energy, and allowing the release of patents with regards to better modes of transportation, more efficient modes of transportation. So you see, if you introduce all these things, there is a way to not only slow down the rate of procreation, but also allow the natural death rates to occur to reduce the world population. Now, what's happening at the moment is the cowardly approach with regards to there's too many people on Earth and no one's bold enough or wise enough, if you want to call it, to be able to deal with it. Yet there are ways of dealing with it. And at the end of the day, you cannot allow what is essentially another human being, the same member of your species, to experience pain, just like many people are, or even death. They have to be able to live out their own life under their own, in their own time, with their own goals and their own callings answered, and to facilitate that whole process. Once you start forcing people to die, which is what we're seeing happening, not just in the health insurance industry, but the health industry and the for our foodstuffs, But the thing is, they're getting away with it. When was the last time a director of a health insurance company was held to account, was threatened unless he sorted an issue out, was so on and so forth? These people aren't held to account. They're getting away with it because everyone's so dispirited. Everyone's so scared of the big brother.
What would the stipulations be, Wingman, for a panel to judge whether or not a couple can have a kid or not, or maybe two? Would it be finances or?
I have my own ideas with regards to that. So if I were put on the spot, or part of a collective mindset that needed to address this problem, I could damn well put my 5 cents worth in. Now I have my own ideas. There are ways and means of doing it. One idea is to incentivize young adults to It's like you have to offer in a carrot so that they, the snip. What do you call it over there when you get the snip?
Circumcision.
No. The snip with regards.
Oh, when you get vasectomy.
Vasectomy, right? Vasectomy. So you need some sort of incentive, and at the moment it would be financial. But obviously, if the paradigm that we live within changes, it could be something different. But you offer them incentive to have a vasectomy, and then you offer the reversal of that process at the age of 21 or 25 when they can prove, and needs to be a proof element, that they're responsible enough to bring up a family.
I would think there'd be a big time spread of STDs because of the fact that responsibility would kind of just fade away knowing that you're not going to get anybody pregnant. So you'd be more active with more partners.
The thing is, what happens in cases like this, not just this example, but throughout, everything's interconnected. The whole shebang, whether it's law, whether it's medicine, whether it's education, whether it's or energy, everything's interconnected. Now, what happens when you have a problem in one area, it's like cancerous, yeah? It knocks onto another area. And then knocks onto another area, and it's basically the whole system has become cancerous. So you have to start with what we can deal with, and then and literally we need to introduce the antidote to the cancer. We are the cure. We're the cure. We need to introduce the antidote into the system, and then what you'll find is the domino effect. So you mentioned STDs. Well, you find that STDs will be curable within days, weeks, much quicker than they are now, because it won't be all about the profit motive over health. Do you see what I'm getting at? So the domino effect will naturally kind of cure many of the problems. Like, for example, overpopulation. Well, the domino effect would be you educate people to be self-sufficient. And once you release patents like free energy, or you educate people about making their own solar panels, for example, then what is happening is the domino effect is like the cure. It goes through the system, and you're facilitating more and more people to be self-sufficient and not so dependent upon a system which inadvertently they're being educated to be dependent upon for means of control.
We've been joined by Nick. How you doing, brother?
Hey, Eric Defy, nice to see you back. Hi, everybody. Hi, Wally. Hey, Wingman, I'm kind of discouraged to hear this from... Did you say something about bureaucrats having some kind of control over who has children and who doesn't?
Look, this is the point. The whole point, Nick, is that eyebrows are going to be raised about this issue. At the end of the day, population is a problem, right? It's perceived as a problem. In other words, an uneducated individual that has no ability to finance or support a family keeps pumping out kids left, right, centre. Bam, bam. There's another one. There's another one. It's not acceptable.
It sounds like you're going off this Idiocracy movie, right? Or at least the same data that Mike Judge was propagandizing and misleading people with.
Population of planet Earth, and until we fix our issues, we should be pumping.
Like to address that.
People should not be introducing 10 kids into the world unless they can support them. Absolutely.
Okay.
Facts. There's no way around it. That's my opinion. That should be fact. Go ahead.
So is it okay if I address that now?
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, they create the problem, and they tell us what they want us to believe the problem is, and a lot of people are buying into their lies and misleading and deception. And one deception is that we are overpopulated. We are not overpopulated, okay? We are over-controlled. We are badly managed, or at least the resources are. And we're being manipulated.
As things
we're being manipulated.
We are.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
As things stand, we are definitely overpopulated. Because the system... hold on, let me finish. I understand that in
I'll let you finish if you let me finish.
Well, you just said go ahead. You just said go ahead, Nick.
No, I was still talking, but anyway, now go ahead.
Well, that's what you said. You said go ahead, and I did. In real terms, as things stand, the current paradigm that we're living under, we're overpopulated. There's no two ways about it. Now, if under the new paradigm where where we are more self-sustainable, where we have educated people how to be self-sustainable, where we've educated people about bringing life into the world and being able to support that life without being dependent upon your neighbor, then yes, we could have a growing population. But as it stands, to increase the population before we fix the problems that exist within the paradigms that we've, inherited and to some extent, handcuffed and changed to, then increasing the world population would not be a good idea as things stand.
Okay,
it would make
well, you're talking about these things like we're doing this, we're doing that. Like, what about the way nature kind of handles things in the first place? And, not having to have these miserable... Just a minute, Wingman, let me finish. Not having these miserable bureaucrats manipulate us and take away our opportunities and then propagandize us and train us to hate on one another with deceptions like the idea that we're overpopulated. Did you know that the Trojan War was fomented and people were convinced that it was necessary because they were made to believe we were overpopulated? I mean, they've been hyping this overpopulation myth ever since, like, time out of mind.
But it's
it's amazing that
it's no longer a myth.
It's amazing to me that they still can convince us of these lies. You can fit everybody into a city the density of Houston, and this city would cover about 3 states, Texas and a couple other states around it. Everybody could fit.
Not given the current paradigm that we're living by, so it's not a lie.
Well, they created it that way, Wingman. The problem isn't the population level. The problem is the way they manage everything.
I have an idea of why this is what Agenda 21 and the Eugenics program and all this is all about. Possibly, this is a theory. We've had all kinds of crazy weather, and we've had crap loads of wheat fields and grain fields go down, and farmers committing suicide because of lack of water in California's agricultural valley, all over the country, basically. I'm sure all over the world, we've had this weather, crazy weather. So what if famine is the reason that they claim overpopulation? Because there simply isn't enough food.
There is enough food, and the earth is prolific. You can grow enough food in the United States alone to feed the entire world. Okay, you can fit everybody into the island continent of Australia and give every man, woman, and child a 1/4-acre plot of land, which is enough to grow all the food you need for the year. And you would still have, a very large chunk of Australia left over and the rest of the world completely unpopulated. Now, let me tell you what will naturally regulate population. And you said it, Wingman. You're very close. It shows how very intelligent you are, but you're obviously just kind of not discerning the propaganda, some of the propaganda that.
No, I don't think.
Just a minute. Let me finish this, and then go ahead and shoot it down.
Yeah,
now, what will naturally regulate populations, and it's not overpopulation, there is overcrowding in some areas. Now, where that overcrowding happens is not in where people are dumb, like idiocracy and like Judge tries to say. It's where people are poor. Okay, the problem of overcrowding occurs where there is poverty. That's what causes overcrowding. So what would naturally regulate populations and cause governments to pay people to have children, like they still do in Russia and Canada, I think in Britain too, is self-sufficiency. What middle-class populations are having, on average, 1.6 children per couple. That's 2 people having less than 2 children. That is a negative population growth. That's why I jumped on, with passion, because this whole idea of we're overpopulated is just, another way of,
Do you admit to trying to kill off millions of us, though?
Well, that's another issue altogether.
Check this out. A story I came across today. The USDA admits to killing millions of birds and animals. Remember the mysterious deaths of millions of birds a while back? Everyone was wondering what's causing the sudden death of all these birds. There have been all kinds of conspiracy theories surrounding the death of all those birds. Everything from environments was killing them to bird suicide. Well, some of you may have heard the mystery has been solved. The USDA has admitted to being behind these mysterious bird deaths. Yes, the United States Department of Agriculture has publicly admitted being responsible for the mass poisoning of tens of millions of birds over the last several years. However, there's more to this story than meets the eye. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has publicly admitted it is responsible for the mass poisoning of tens of millions of birds over the last several years. It's all part of the USDA's program called Bye Bye Blackbird. And we even have the USDA spreadsheet where they document how many millions of birds and other animals they've poisoned to death. Okay, after hundreds of starlings were found dead in the Yankton Riverside Park, concerned citizens began investigating. After a while, the USDA official called. Local police admitted they had poisoned the birds. They said they had poisoned the birds about 10 miles south of Yankton, and they were surprised they came to Yankton like they did and died in our park, says Yankton Animal Control. The USDA then confirmed the story explains it was all part of a large killing in Nebraska. Some of the birds that ate the poison apparently flew away to Yankton before succumbing to the poison. So why the USDA is poisoning the birds in the first place? What's the purpose of killing the animals? There were too many of them. A Nebraska farmer was apparently complaining that the starlings were defecating in his feed meal. The answer to this conundrum apparently isn't to cover your feed meal, but to rather call the USDA and ask them to poison thousands or millions of birds. The USDA complied, apparently agreeing this was a brilliant idea. So they put out a poison called DRC-1339 and allowed thousands of birds to feed on that poison. It goes on, but yeah, you get the point. See, they're even, Mother Nature obviously can't even take care of herself in some forms and shapes, right?
Well, you know what happened there is there weren't enough predators to keep the flocks down, because nature has a way of balancing herself once she's left alone. But there's something like it's poisons in the first place. It's almost certainly pesticides and herbicides that the farmers use that have decimated the population of predatory birds. I mean, peregrine falcons are very delicate creatures.
So we should blame the vet. We should blame, like, the pound for taking all the feral cats away.
You know what we can blame all through and through? 99% of our problems, as far as physical and environmental, are the chemical companies, including the oil barons, oil cartels. That's what's wrecking the earth. We could be using hemp, which is very good for the earth, instead of using oil.
They're getting a free ride, effectively. They are taking from the earth. They're taking what is essentially is all our property, not just theirs, but everyone's really. And they're really just, there's nothing stopping them just, digging for uranium, or any other resources or minerals. And they are, when I look at some of the maps, some of the regions where everyone's like crowded in these little cities and you've got all these quarries dotted around in these vast areas, they're keeping, all those precious, all that precious land for a lot of the time for quarrying and mining. But you're right, Nick. Nature can take care of herself. And if we push her too hard with things like mining and overuse of resources so that we're taking more and more from the earth and not putting it back in a responsible way, then Mother Nature will just wipe her hands and say, this has gone too far. And people were saying, oh, Nick is 100% right, Nick is 100% right on what you were saying with regards to population. But I'm not sure if I was being heard correctly, because with regards to population, we're probably more than capable of having over 20 million people on this earth. But what I was trying to say is that if we keep increasing the population and introducing children into an inferior paradigm, into a broken system, then we're just aggravating the situation. We're not helping it. That's what I was getting at. And that's an important point to drill home.
Well, for me, I always am cautious of people who discuss the symptoms of the problem and that way being distracted from the cause in the first place.
Well, the symptoms of the problem is the cancer, Nick. The cancer that exists in the system cannot sustain the current population growth because it's an inferior system. It's not designed to responsibly recycle human SHIT and waste and all these landfills day after day. If it were responsible, people are still starving. People are still starving en masse.
Yes.
Thousands by the minute.
I had an idea for waste removal on this planet is, why don't we throw all of our waste into active volcanoes?
Sure. But hey, look, they created a throwaway society. It's not because of too many people that we have so much garbage. It's because of these idiots who insist on capitalizing and making money and exploiting everything, people and resources that cause that waste problem. Now, the idea of overpopulation is, the problem, another problem I have with it is the fact that Western populations are dying. As I said, we're only averaging about 1.6 children per couple. So our population is dying, okay? We're going away. And it's impoverished populations, people who are born in poverty situations, and that's all they knew, and so that's what they're willing to live with. And that's the kind of the problem that they're trying to flood the whole world with. They're trying to harmonize the entire world and bring us down to the level of China and India. Mm. And the problem isn't the number of people. The problem is the way the managers are and the way the world pirates. I don't call them world leaders. They are actually below the worst of the worst. They're not leaders at all. What they are usurpers. And they are destroying lives and destroying the surface of this planet in order that they can devalue it and then get control. Total. Well, and once they do that, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the whole thing is, as things stand, is yes, we're being told that it's like a catch-22, the overpopulation issue. Personally, I don't think it helps by saying, oh yeah, we can have 30 million. I know we can have 30 million or 20 million, probably 20 million is a more comfortable number. But as things stand, it doesn't help the issue because introducing 20 million into an inferior system is not going to help. But, one right way of, I think at the end of the day, they want to maintain control. Those in power, of course, they want to hold on to power. And if the population increases as it stands, then the system will definitely crumble. And no doubt they will make a play to maintain even the crumbling system and control a crumbling system. But it's like, we can't sustain the current level of population growth until we fix the system. That's the fact, so you can't get around that.
The thing is, the same thing...
The system, let me finish this. Yes, the system can sustain 20 million, but only responsibly. Only if we get our sort our stuff out, remove the cancer, and inject the cure that I was saying earlier into the system, back into the system.
Well, again, the problem isn't the overpopulation thing. The problem is the way it's being managed, the way it's being run. And the whole economy, the infrastructure, the commerce, the industry has been completely twisted around and used in a way that, it creates planned obsolescence. It suppresses technology. It suppresses new innovation. That's the problem. Once you, like I say, you stop twisting this economy around to leave 90% of this planet in poverty, that in itself right there will eliminate the population growth. And like I say,
right, there's a knock-on effect. There's no doubt a knock-on effect with regards to poverty. One of the situations with regards to poverty is that to create lots of boys to do a lot of the work and generate income and go out there and do the hard labor, the manual labor, and bring money back into the family. Another thing, but there's loads of knock-on effects and tangled aspects to that. There's transportation. The reason why people flock to small, the cities and is because transportation is really expensive. If transportation were cheaper, people could be more, spread out. And if resources were, people had access to more sustainable, let's say, ways of operating a water pump or clean water or getting to clean water. And it's the whole infrastructure is built up around, people out of necessity having to gravitate in great numbers in these cities and through overcrowding. We all know about overcrowding in the various cities, one of which has the World Cup, is hosting the World Cup at the moment. So it's there's a knock-on effect. It's one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. And transportation is a big part of that. Again, if we had fast, rapid transportation, which is more than possible, then that would alleviate some of the problem. So it's this kind of knock-on dependency of someone needing to be where all the resources are, all the money is, when it shouldn't be that way. But you're right in saying that poverty is a big part of population problem as well, because
I wanted to hear what Wally had to say. He's been very quiet, and I wanted to give him some time on the mic before we go to break, if that's okay. You there, Wally? You just listening? All right, go ahead, Wingman. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be courteous.
The thing is, it's a big problem. I don't think all these entangled issues, they are interconnected, like I say. But it's like, it would take a hive mind, a well-organized hive mind, of kind of round table, people sitting down and tackling, one issue at a time.
We'll be right back. You're listening to The Gray Zone Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. It's about 3 minutes.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Who owns you? If you're not in control, then someone else is. Join me, Ivy West, for Voices on the Wind, Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern in Studio A. I discuss government, health, metaphysics, suppressed science, universal mysteries, little-known incredible facts, alternative energies, and even more than you can imagine. Won't you join us on Revolution Radio Saturdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern for Voices on the Wind with me, Ivy West.
There are lives in the balance, people under fire, children at the cannons.
Because if your head's in the sand, your tail is a target.
Hi everybody, it's me, the Fetch, host of Inside the Eye Live. Before the Sunday mainstream media political pundit talk shows, there is Inside the Eye Live, where we break down some of the weekly mainstream media talking points before the talking points even get aired. Add in some entertaining stories, weather, cats, intriguing and informative guests, and you get one of the most listened to Saturday morning streaming media political talk shows going today. And it's all right here on our flagship station, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. So join me, the Fetch, for Inside the Eye Live every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern. It is truly intelligent media for the politically aware.
I have worked with the CIA, NSA, Templars, and Bilderbergers. Now I work for you. My show will disclose secrets, science, and esoteric knowledge. Join me, Stephen D. Kelly, for 2 hours every Thursday night at 10 o'clock Eastern Time on freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio, Studio A. You can also listen to previous shows by going to youtube.com/Free Revolution Radio.
Anti-aircraft guns went into action against unidentified aircraft in the Los Angeles area shortly after 3 a.m. Pacific wartime this morning.
We are far stronger than we were 10 weeks ago.
Zero quarters, all hands man your battle stations.
You're nervous, mount your toes. I'll do the mastermind up around here.
Those who have not seen it do not know what hell looks like from the top.
Bam, check it out every Tuesday and Saturday on Revolution Radio. It's a double dose of the internationally recognized renegade military historian Douglas Dietrich.
You'll stay right where you are till I tell you to move out.
Yeah, that's right. Tuesdays from 10 to midnight Eastern Time. Join Douglas Dietrich as he exposes the truth in hidden history on his show Critical Omissions. And then our human weapon of mass destruction is back once again to take your calls on Saturday Night Firing Lines. Both from 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Only on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Welcome to the TheGrayZone RoundTable, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. No corporate ties, corporate duct tape dictating our freedom of speech. And it shall remain that way as long as we are supported by you. Join us, 347-688-2902. Enter the Gray Zone.
Directed by.
Oh, okay. Maybe it was wanting me to do the intro. Sorry about that, guys. You listen to Grey Zone on freedomslips.com. As you know, we are fully listener supported. So please, as JP said earlier, I was listening to him earlier. He said, put a coin in the machine and keep us going. You know, like one of those arcade machines where you have to keep us going. That means putting a coin in the slot. So try to keep us going because I think we're worth it, don't you? Anyway, I think, Wally, do you remember what you were about to say? You said you were going to say something you forgot. Has it come to you yet?
No, it hasn't come back to me yet, but, you know, very interesting conversation. You know, I just kind of think that if the world gets overpopulated, the earth will take care of itself, whether by earthquake or natural disaster. If it feels threatened from overpopulation, I'm sure, just like the animals, there's, you know, the earth will take care of its overpopulation if it gets to that point. But there again, we can't cut all our woods down because we need, you know, all our vegetation to build apartment buildings and things like that because we need those for the oxygen.
You know, the thing is with Earth, and we were taught some of this from a young age, mostly the weather system, it's like it's an organism. You know, the planet Earth is an organism. So if you take something away from one part, it will balance itself out by readjusting in another part. So it's an organism. And with an organism comes aspects of balance. Now, if we start to trip all these wires off, you know, and everything goes out of balance, then I like many would agree, planet Earth is more than capable of saying, you just pushed it too far there, and will readjust itself. There'll be another global disaster. But is that the way we really want to go? Because at the end of the day, we're also a part of nature, you know? We mustn't forget that.
Look what happened to the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I think the main... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm done.
No, you're Mike.
Okay, the main problem is really that we have basically lost control of the way this planet has run. And we're not even being told how things are being done here. And some people with nefarious and ulterior motives have basically taken control of it and us, and have tricked us into going along by basically making us think that this is the only way to do it. And it's a joke to think that automobiles still average only about 20 miles to gallon. Give me a break. It's not about the forefront of technology. It's about, old world, old money trying to grow, in what I see. I hope Dude Guy's listening. I'd love for him to call in and have a discussion on the idea that I think capitalism is exactly that. It's there to capitalize and exploit everything and anything, and the whole basis for capitalism is always growth. And, of course, another aspect of, endless and uncontrolled growth is a cancer.
Yeah.
And so we've got smaller and smaller numbers of people growing greater and greater wealth. And it's all growing out of control, and we're all being kind of left out in the cold while a few groups of people are figuring out how to kill us. And instead, what we could be doing is, as far as I'm concerned, if things were going anything like they were supposed to be, I would be probably getting in my space pod right now, going out, zipping out to the Kuiper Belt and exploring some rocks and some asteroids and finding some minerals to bring back to Earth, so we don't have to dig them out of the crust.
I think
instead we're building bombs to blow up Iraq. Go ahead.
Essentially, we're talking about reapers. Not harvesters, but reapers. And they're not grim reapers because they've actually got a smile on their face because they're the wealthiest of the lot, So, and they're calling the shots to a large extent. But, my question is this: how does a population that's effectively, if not running around like headless chickens, is doing the same thing like a robot? How does a population that hasn't been educated how to solve a problem called chaos, which is we're not chaos is the wrong word. How to solve a problem called what am I going to call it? Automation without soul. I think that's kind of what it feels like at the moment. How do you solve a problem like this with an uneducated populace that doesn't really know how to solve the problem? It's like a catch-22. Where do we start? And we need to talk about this a lot, because until we get it right, the flip side is not nice. So we need to somehow work towards how we organize ourselves in such a way as to address the cancer. We really do. There's no two ways about it. Go ahead.
First thing we have to do is disengage the system that caused the problem in the first place. We have to stop sending our children to the temples, the Masonic temples, to have their souls sucked out of them and their brains shrunken. And they need some real education.
Can't be done. Not overnight. It's not something you can do on mat. I'm going to be devil's advocate, Nick. To do that in an organised manner, to say stop going to church, is that what you're implying by the temples?
No.
Okay, can you explain what you meant by temples? Sorry, I misinterpreted that. What do you mean by the temples?
Schools.
Oh, schools, right. Schools. So, is that doable? Can we, and I kind of, if we try and think within like a month time frame, can we organise all the massives to stop taking their kids to school? Is that doable? If it's not, then it's not a solution-orientated solution.
Well,
it's not.
One of the things that, for me, makes it easy, or seem to be easy, is the fact that once we expose that the government has been running Al-Qaeda and been using DU all over the place, causing all these birth defects, and if they keep using that depleted uranium, more and more of the world is going to have all these malformed babies all over the place. And, the government is also running the schools, and so we need to put two and two together and understand that the government is doing everything they can to shut us down, to take our spirits away, to take our independence away, and take our independent thought away. So either we care enough about our children to not destroy their future, or we don't.
That is on the to-do list.
To that.
That is on the to-do list, but with all due respect, it's a firework. It's a firework on the to-do list. It's not a solution, an immediate one. What we need is an immediate one that will start injecting the anti-venom, the antidote into the system immediately, within a short time frame. So realistically, and I have to be realistic, you might not like it, but I have to be realistic. Realistically, that approach, you're not going to force people en masse to start self-educating their kids.
Well, if you want something that'll work tomorrow, then of course we need to occupy all the parliaments and legislatures of the world. We need millions.
Well, within a short time frame, within a month would be nice. If we keep thinking of a solution that is effective within a month time frame, that's something to work towards. But the thing is, there's so many worms in the can. We just need to pick one worm that will address our concerns. Let's put it that way. Pick one worm out of the can and say, this is the problem. We need to address this right now because it's affecting our happiness, it's affecting our well-being, it's affecting our health, and it's affecting our future. That's it.
There's no quick fix to it, because not just re-educating, we have to refeed so the body has the nutrition so it can be educated. Right now, the nutrition, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, is that the nutrition, or BC Pizza or Domino's? Is that the nutrition for kids with growing brains and learning? No. So it's going to take, there's no quick fix to it, because you went through school, you have common sense, you have morals, rectify, you have common sense, Nick, we're just, 4 people here on a round table.
Okay.
And so it's a process that has been going on for a while, so we have to reverse that process, and it's going to take a while to get back there, at least a generation.
Let me throw a scenario out there, and it involves an individual, but look at the individual in this analogy as the system, right? If an individual has a breakdown, let's say whether mentally or through illness, and they're they're dispirited and they're not feeling great, what's the advice that they're often told with regards to getting back into the swing of things? What's the advice they're often told?
Here's a Valium or whatever.
Well, okay, I'm kind of fishing, but the answer I was fishing for was just take one thing at a time, take one step at a time.
One day at a time.
One day at a time. And we need to take that approach. Just do one thing at a time, because we can't do it all. We're great at identifying. The thing is, we've actually become very good at identifying the cracks in the infrastructure. We've become very experts at it almost. What we haven't become experts is in doing one thing at a time. And I think that needs to be done. Now, I'd be quite happy to ask every day, how do we do one thing at a time? Where do we start? Where do we start? Where do we start? I'll say it over and over like a parrot if I have to, because I know it needs to be drilled home. I know there is no other way of fixing this unless we do one thing at a time, because I know it works for the individual. I know it works for a small community. And if you exponentially, roll that upwards, it will work for a nation, it will work for a world, a planet.
Exactly, but it's going to take time, because it took time to get to this point, because we weren't always at this point. So it's going to take time to get back or move forward with the same morals and nutrition that we had before. I mean, it's just like the food triangle. Here, I'm 57. When I grew up, the food triangle was one way. Then all of a sudden now I'm saying, oh no, that's not right. The food triangle that they taught us and, back when we were little is no longer the same. It has now changed. So, and GMO foods are not helping it. I mean, we cannot, nature is perfect.
Nature's pretty darn good.
We should not change nature. She has the way seeds grow for our nourishment.
Yeah.
We don't need to change those.
I couldn't agree more on that point. But, you know, with regards to time, as you know, the only time, the time that I want to drill home is we just need to agree on one thing and do it. Just start with, how, you know, and so I guess the next question that spins off from that is, how do we all agree on one thing and do it all at the same time? And I'm appealing that with an open heart. I'm asking that with an exhaustion, because I'm tired. I know that I'm not the only one that's tired, but I just want us to do one thing at the same time. And then from there, we can organize ourselves. We can gather the specialist aspects and the specialist knowledge with regards to how we can fix each step of the way, you know? But I kind of, you know, with a heavy heart, I'll ask this over and over again if I have to. Yeah. But we just need to agree and organize ourselves to do the one thing at the same time. And then we can take back what is rightfully ours, and that is our future, our pursuit of happiness, our respect of health and each other. And, you know, we can start manifesting our own desires and not being hitting brick walls with regards to, you know, doing that, whether it be financially, whether it be due to resources, whether it be due to responsibilities. You know, we can address these things individually and fix the world, you know, collectively. But, you know, and I am a dreamer.
We're in our salad here at the round table. Welcome, Olive. How you doing? What would you like to add?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. How's it going, guys?
Good.
Anyway, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're loud and clear.
Yeah, the population thing is just amazing to me. That people believe that there's 7 billion people in this world. That's a laughing thing. I lived in Long Beach for a while, and even just in time, if you had some spare time, could go on Google Map, and you could Google Long Beach, California, which they say has 500,000 people. And there's not even probably maybe 100,000. With 10,000 dwelling places, apartments and everything, you did an average of 5 people per place. You come out to 50,000 people, and we doubled it, and you got 100,000 people. I guarantee there's probably not even that in Long Beach. This whole population thing is a big scam and lie. The earth ain't overpopulated, just like they lied about everything else to us. They're lying about that.
Yeah, but that doesn't make the problem of overcrowding go away, right, Nick?
Well, what overcrowding, that's only because they push people into, Nick was right. They push people into little areas. I mean, look at all the room there is all around the world. Come on, man.
They don't have to push. A lot of the time people go to cities out of necessity. It's not, you know, just because of the way the system is.
Yeah. I'm just you know, going on the issue of population and how they say, like here, it dropped 21 people from last year, you know.
Okay, let me put it another way. Is saying that population isn't a problem going to solve...
There is no problem, population. You know that, man. Come on.
Okay, so is it okay, Wingman, you know, pumping out kids as things are? You know, I say it's not. I say it's not. I say it's not okay to have more than 2 kids.
There's something in the chat room that I've thought about before.
Sorry, but that's my stance. Because until we fix it, we shouldn't be adding to the problem.
This was said in the chat room. It's something that I've thought about. It's a conspiracy theory, but it's the only thing that kind of makes sense. You know, through 2008 economic crash, millions of people lost their homes, and there's still millions of homes vacant, right? We had everything from tent cities to, you know, Skid Row got overcrowded and all this. Well, all of this disappeared. Are they taking them to FEMA camps? Where are all these people going? You know, what's going on here?
I want to say something to that. When I was in Long Beach, California in 2008, and then that's what you just said. From 2008, the stores were always full, and there's people in it on the 1st of every month. And then it just changed. Like when right at the end of 2008 or the beginning of 2009. I can't remember. Then there's no more people. Like just 10, 15 people in there. Where it was crowded. It's like, where'd everybody go? Right?
Well, it's interesting. I think they file away. They go to different places, and they, you know, if you can't find work in one place, you'll find work in another place. And a lot of people are finding out that where there's a resource, they can start their own business and they can start employing people. It's oftentimes a very meager living, but you know, sometimes they get successful and they actually are able to eke out a decent living. Now, it's interesting. You said, Olive, that. You know, that they claim there's 7 billion people. I've been thinking about that too.
That is so funny. It makes me want to.
Yeah,
I laugh about that all the time.
Let's say there were 7 billion people on this planet, and I wanted everyone. I'm in control. I'm one of these oligarchs, and I decide I want everybody to believe there's 12 billion people on this planet. If I put it out there and made everybody believe there's 12 billion people on this planet, how would you prove me wrong? How would you know if I'm even telling you the truth?
And how can
There's no way any of us could know.
They're the ones that have to prove that there's 7 billion. But you know what I mean? They're the ones that have to prove it. I don't think there's what they say is 2 billion in China, and there's probably 2 billion is probably 200 million.
Does it matter whether it's 2 billion or 7 billion? Because at the end of the day, no one can conceptualize those numbers anyway. You know, it'd probably take you several lifetimes to count up to 7 billion.
Yeah, and the thing is, if China has had a one-child policy for, 30 years now, how can their population be growing? You know? Apparently, everybody's only having one child. So how is it their population is still growing? Unless it's immigration from other places. So, you know, they got that too many men crisis now. And, I mean, that's what happens when bureaucrats try to artificially manipulate populations is you get crisis. They only create more problems. What we have to do is stop creating the problem. Got to stop worrying about the distractions and stop looking at the symptoms and stop thinking that people are the problem. People are not the problem. It's the bureaucracy that's the problem. It's completely out of control. It's completely out of touch. It has no idea what real world living is. And all they do is know how to do is push a pencil and destroy people's lives. That's all bureaucrats do. They are parasites, and they need to be removed from this equation.
Okay, and I agree. But I want to come back to a question I guess mentioned earlier, which was kind of no one offered an answer to, and that is, how do we do one thing all at the same time? And I said I'd say it like a parrot if I have to, because, you know, at the moment, when I said it and there was a kind of silence afterwards, and I'm not being arrogant, I'm being truthful, it's as though people go, oh, well, I don't know, and so they'll move on to another problem, another area, you know, around.
No, you're giving an answer.
Do you see what I mean? And I get frustrated, because at the end of the day, there's a part of me thinking, holy moly, no one even wants to talk about something really fundamental. They'd rather talk about another problem that they can't solve,
Wingman,
rather than a problem that is doable, which is do one thing at the same time.
Wingman.
You know? And I'm getting a bit frustrated.
Wingman. Wingman, that's because you're not listening. Okay,
it's because I'm passionate, Nick. It's not because I'm not listening, mate.
Wingman.
That's not fair. That's not fair. It's because I'm passionate about why it went unanswered.
Yes, I'm passionate too, but I'm telling you, it was answered. You weren't listening. That's why you think it wasn't answered. We need to remove the bureaucracy. We need to stop calling politicians our leaders and start being leaders to the politicians.
That's a generalization, Nick. How do we do that all at the same time? I'll ask it.
It's every day.
How do we do that all at the same time? I want to know.
It's an everyday thing. Okay, well, ask the question and then let someone answer.
Okay, if bureaucracy is the problem, which is a very generic term, bureaucracy, can mean a hell of a lot. How do we remove, is it removing, is that what you're advocating? And I'm sorry, I'm sounding contradictory now, it's not fair. Right, so how do we remove bureaucracy at the same time, within a short time frame?
I gave you the answer, and I'll give it to you again. We need to occupy the legislatures and the parliaments. Okay, we need to not go to work tomorrow. We need to instead go and fire the government worldwide.
And that Nassara law.
Okay. That's all right. No, I'm liking what I'm hearing so far. Now,
There's already a law here in America called the Nassar Law, the National Economic Security Reformation Act, not Recovery Act, Reformation Act. There's two different ones. They purposely put that one, and that one gets rid of all the government.
Now, what I'd like to ask is how many people here
most of them
agree with that being a viable first step, because that's what's needed. You need agreement that the first step is a viable first step, and then you start to move towards the direction that I'm talking about for sure.
Like Nick said,
who here agrees that that's a viable first step? Firstly, I know Nick does because he just mentioned it.
Let's get Justin Time's view on this. He just hit the door and took a seat at the table. What's going on, Mr. Justin Time?
If I'm going to start writing this down, I really am. Viable first steps. There we go. And you can quote me on it, right? I'm going to be taking notes, guys.
I think your passion is awesome, Wingman. I love this passion. I'm frustrated, too, and I'm sick of this, and I would love to join you in occupying the Parliament.
Right, so occupy. Again, you've got to steer away from the very general terms, but Parliament and what did you say? Parliament and and the.
Yeah, we have parliaments, but any I guess non-monarchy has a legislature. Well, they're both you've got to occupy the legislature buildings.
If you can occupy the legislature, you see, you can introduce your own laws immediately. Very easy.
Well, that's what the Nassar Law already does and has those in place. Yeah. And it was passed, signed into law by Bill Clinton in 1999, secretly done, and only 15 people were able to vote out of the Congress, both Senate and representatives. Only 15 people, because only 15 people were lawfully elected out of the 432. And this law gets rid of them, gets rid of the IRS, everything. All debts are washed away. The whole debt thing gets put to zero. It's very easy to do. They do it every 50 years in Israel.
That's good to know. So I've written this down, okay? I've written this down. Hold on. I've written this down as a viable first step, and I'd like your agreement on the terminology, right?
Hold on, 214.
Okay, so I've not given it a number one. I've given it letter A for starters, and that is occupy Parliament and the legislature. And I've put in here as a side note, bypass courts with common law. In other words, if you change the law, you can't obviously use the existing court system. You have to have a common law court. Would you agree that that's a viable first step to at least discuss as a further viable first step? Yes, guys? This is the kind of kind of approach we've got to take, seriously.
Well, we have two callers that have joined us. Let's spread the mic around and get their opinions.
Okay.
Justin.
Viable first steps, though.
And then 214 after Justin.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I haven't seen Nick in a while, and I think you need a pedicure, Nick. From what I see on the avatar. And if Wingman wanted a viable first step, I'd say we have to hit him right back where they control us. And I say this every year in the States, and this can be done in one day if everybody takes the move. Stay home on Black Friday, the biggest retail day of the year. Stop giving to the corporations. Stay home on Black Friday.
Well, I'll take a side note of that, but you have to get agreement from everyone that's a viable first step, firstly. So, guys...
Hold on. I promised 214 you'd be next. 214...
No, I know, but to get this process...
Yeah.
I need to get agreement from each people first. Otherwise, it just fizzles out. So I need agreement on that being a viable first step, guys. Just a yes or no from everyone here and in the chat room. Come on, you can do it. Come on, seriously, guys.
Boycotts are viable. Boycotts are viable. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's AC Guy, Dallas. AC Guy. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're clear, loud and clear.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm just feeling his frustration in trying to get an answer to what is one thing we could do within a month, let's say.
Yeah.
And it's a really difficult question.
It is.
And we've all put forth ideas, but they wouldn't be able to be done in a month. But it always comes back to ourselves. And it's right in front of all of you. You are all friends, or you wouldn't be talking. If he wants to do something in a month, what's his name? I forgot. What's his name?
That's Wingman.
Wingman. Where do you live and where do you live?
Planet Earth.
Okay. Well, how long would it take you to move to be with somebody that's on the panel right now? Or could you get with one person on the panel to both of you move to a separate location? If you would, in a month, all of you got together in one location, you would be able to affect that location by boycott, by other means, by influencing the people around you, by offering an example of how to live. That would be your most effective tool to affect change in your position right now, unless you got $1 billion.
Well, you don't need much money for a loaded title for land, and that's where you don't have to pay taxes. And those are the two things I always talk about, and I'm headbanging this. And that's the Nosara law, and then do sovereign birthrights to land and do a quiet title. You're done. Go have a beer.
Okay, well, move on. Yeah, Wingman, move with him. Move to his place. He's done. He's got it all figured out, and you two can get somebody else there. That'd be free.
No, hold on, caller. That's not fair to say I've got it all figured out. I need you just as much as you need me.
I know, I understand. But you are all friends right now, but you're a unique situation in the world today. You're trying to offer solutions to other people, but it's right in front of you. The solution is that for a month, if you have to do something a month, all of y'all need to get together in a secret location, basically.
I've taken down what you said, caller, and I've written it down as move to a location, not just for me, but anyone it can apply to. Move to a location of like minds. How's that?
That's it. And affect that community the best you can. And that's the most effective you can do in 1 month. Because you can't run off the parliament and replace them.
Right.
Not in a month. This isn't going to be a generational thing.
I'd say it's a viable...
Thousands of years to get here, and it's going to take probably 1,000 years to get back. I don't know.
Now, caller, you've got to remember that everyone's going to have their opinion with regards to what is the best viable first step. The whole skill in this affair or experiment, if you want to call it that, is to get all of us agreeing on one of them. Do you get me?
Yes, this is just one answer to your question.
I know.
It's just one viable solution.
And it's a good one.
Right. And I felt your frustration, and I just felt like you should have something to grasp onto.
Thank you very much, caller. That's really kind.
I'm going to get off the phone.
No, you can hang about. You don't have to
anytime.
leave. Yeah.
Huh?
So
you can stay if you want.
What?
I think it all goes back to the corporations. If you want to get their attention, pull on the purse strings. And I'll give the example over and over and over again. Take a habit, take something that somebody likes, like smoking rolled tobacco, offer them something else, and not within a day, not within a month, but after 2 years of e-cigarettes being out there on the market around the world, big tobacco, a big corporation, have seen sales of rolled tobacco plummet and fall 65% in the last 18 years.
Yeah, but
that's
I hate to put a spanner in the works, but you realise Big Tobacco has bought up a lot of the e-cigarette companies and has a big.
Trying.
They have a big stake already in that. Sorry, but they do.
Not just that, legislation's gotten in the way, bureaucracy's gotten in the way here in California. There's a few cities now where e-cigarettes are banned everywhere.
Really?
Even in your own backyard, probably.
Yep.
Why is that? Why would they ban e-cigarettes?
Because it pull on their purse strings.
Okay.
Well, look at
That's what I
Prohibition.
thought.
Look at Prohibition. Look what they did with alcohol back then. You know, kind of see the same thing with cigarettes. But, guys, I got a dentist appointment in the morning. It's been wonderful. Peace, love, compassion, and forgiveness. Everybody have a good week.
Take care.
Happy smiles, brother.
Wally.
Good night.
Good night.
Let's,
And I've got a website to work on. Nick, get a pedicure, buddy. Have a good night.
Let's see you, Justin.
Okay, thanks, Justin. No, he makes a good point. If I can jump in real quick. Now, that e-cigarette thing, that's just an example of ways to, at least take a big chunk out of these giant corporations. Max Kaiser mentioned that if everybody were to stop buying Coca-Cola products and bring down that Goliath, that's going to be not just taking down Coca-Cola, that's going to be taking down a huge limb of this whole web.
I'm not sure I agree. Nick. Well, the reason being, and I know it's a bit harsh, but I think if you, just like with the cigarette companies, if you suddenly boycotted Coca-Cola, they'd then buy up en masse the very thing that you turn to. Do you see how it works?
Well,
that's what's happening.
You know what though, Wingman?
It's called horizontal or vertical integration. I can't remember which of those. It's one of the two.
Well,
okay.
The only thing that's really proper for us to be drinking in the first place is water. So what do you think, Coca-Cola is going to buy up all the water? I don't think so. And certainly not if we don't let them, like we've let them run roughshod over us all these years.
They could buy up the water companies. They could buy up the water companies.
The point is, well, who cares? Water's water. It's our planet, and we got to take it back.
Introduce a little bit of cocoa into the water system.
And they can't do anything without our consent. Don't forget about that. They've had hundreds of years of our ignorance to be able to do everything behind our back and then engineer our consent, according to Edward Bernays. So now they can't do that anymore because we have a lot more access to information. So the thing is, these powers that be use corporate might to fool us into giving our consent. And once we start taking down these giant corporations, they aren't going to have nearly as much influence over us, over our minds, and over our.
They'll just horizontally integrate, Nick. They've got the money and power to do that at the moment.
They can only do that so much. Eventually, that'll stop working as well.
I'll tell you what. If you look at some of these big companies and how many other sub-companies they own, you'd be shocked. There's a chart somewhere. I'm going to see if I can find it, actually, because it's worth posting and reminding people about the horizontal and vertical integration of some of these multinational companies. All they do is sidestep. If you stop buying products in one aspect, they'll just buy the sidestep to where you are.
Because the web is so profound right now. But if we start ripping it apart strand by strand, there's not going to be any web for them to sidestep left.
Yeah, but we're dependent on the system as it stands. We're dependent on all these chains of supply.
Well, no, the system gives us convenience. We're not dependent on it so much as we are addicted to it. It's just like, addiction to heroin is horrible and it's awful when you're without heroin, but you get rid of the heroin and you will live. It's going to suck for a while, but you'll live. Okay, it's not like we need it. It's just that we're addicted to it. And that's the thing about this economic thing is if the dollar collapses, the only thing that'll be lost is people's savings, which is terrible. But, fewer and fewer of us even have any savings to lose. So if the dollar collapses, in my opinion, it'll be a big release for us. It'll be the best thing that ever happened to us.
I don't know, Nick. It needs to be managed. If it's going to happen, it needs to be managed. Otherwise, within a week, you'll have people raiding houses by knife point or gunpoint, trying to get the food stuff out of your cupboard within a week, mate, or two maximum.
Well, that's the conventional viewpoint, but I don't believe that at all. I believe that we would actually help each other, because when there's a disaster happening,
Nick, you're dreaming. If you think that, you're dreaming.
Yeah, but Wingman,
and it's the wrong kind of dream. If chaos ensued and the dollar collapsed and the whole process were not managed, even if that is possible, then within weeks you'd have gang warfare going from house to house.
That's
fear.
wonderful conventional viewpoints that the system wants us to believe, to hate on each other and to suspect and be paranoid towards each other. I don't believe that's true. Whenever there is a disaster, we always pull together. We always work together. The news, like when there's a hurricane or whatever, when the news will always show the looting and the misery, they won't show the people working together. They only show us the bad stuff. They won't show us the good stuff, which is 99% of what's happening is people do work together when things fall apart. We'll have to lay a bet on this one.
It's a tough one. And I'm just saying, don't rule out the hypothetical possibility that you're going to have uneducated people. I'm not even sure if that's the right word. You're going to have people that are pretty non-empathic, that just give a darn about themselves and their own family and feeding their own family. They will quite happily go out, with weapons and raid houses. Go from household to household until there's.
Well, I'm not saying that won't happen at all, but I'm saying that won't be the norm. That'll be the exception. Okay, most people will work together. We will band together. We will help each other through everything. And there will be marauding hordes. I'm sure there will. But I think that'll be quite a rare occurrence.
So, going back to viable first steps, is a viable first step facilitating the collapse of the economy?
Well, just reining it in. We don't have to collapse it. We just have to rein it in. Right now, our consciousness is being collapsed, and that's what.
How would you reword that then? Because I'm writing all this down, don't forget.
Well, it's very complicated, of course. The economy is much more complicated than the political system.
Right, but is it a viable first step? Because that's what I'm getting at. And I know people might not like me droning on about this. Someone just snored. That's pretty darn insulting. But did you see what I'm getting at? Who just snored? Just put your hand up. Admit who just did it. Seriously? Because it's like, oh, mate, this is what infuriates me. Someone just snored. Someone just freaking went.
What is it? A snore?
No, I heard it.
Snort?
I heard it because
it was a snort.
Well, I'd slap him if I could get my hands on him. I tell you, because it's pretty atrocious. But I'm quite happy until I'm stopped.
Someone's bent tonight.
I'm quite happy until I'm stopped to carry on along this route and explore the viable first steps that are presented or tabled or brought to air. Because, like I keep saying, until we go there, until we dare to go there and exercise our neurons to discover what these viable first steps might be or look like, then we're just going to go round and round and round in circles.
Well, the other thing, Wingman, is once you take one viable first step, you have no idea what that second viable first step is going to be until after you've taken the first one. Because once you've taken that first step, it's going to be a radical, unbelievable change right at that.
Nick, bless you, mate. You're so good at this. Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But the whole point is the first step.
That's why, when people say, oh, it's going to take months or it's going to take a generation, well, there are things that will take that long, but there are other things that will be immediate. And once we start to improve things, I mean, it's going to be euphoric, even though it's a long way to go. Even just taking those first steps will make a huge difference, be a big relief, take away a lot of pain from a lot of people right off the bat.
But I think we need to be brave enough to go there, Nick, personally. Exactly what
I'm ready. I've been screaming about that since I was a kid, and people are telling me to just shut up and don't stop trying to save the world, and just don't be so negative.
I get why they do that, Nick, and it's there's a lot of what you call it, psychology behind it as to why people do that, and a lot of the time it's because they're frustrated that they don't have an answer for you. Literally.
Well, the thing is, I was yelling the answers, at least the answers that I thought were viable, and everybody was just not communicating. It's the mind programming, engaging, and just wanting to stay in that comfort zone, and not feeling that they have any ability to do anything about it. And, people keep asking, well, what can I do about it? Well, stop asking what can I do about it. Start asking what can we do about it. And we can start working together to make huge changes.
You're right.
Wing, can I say something real quick?
Yeah,
then I'll be done. you could put me down there for the first step. The very first step would be to have an unloaded title to land. You know, when you own, that's very fundamental. You got to, when you can outright own land and not have to pay taxes. It's an unloaded title here in the United States, America. And that's the first step, so you can mark me down there. The very first step.
You can also build your house on a trailer with wheels, and there's no property taxes on that either.
The thing about having the land, you get all those mineral rights, and you get a section, a township, and a range. Then you could go digging as deep, down to 300 feet below.
Is that deep enough for a well?
I don't know. I would think so.
Because we all know water's going to be the next gold, the next oil.
Right.
Well, you know, that again, you know, the Earth is 75% water, and I think that there's more gold dissolved in the oceans than there is in the crust. And when they use reverse osmosis, which is what they do to desalinate seawater, there's probably gold in our filters.
Well,
and
then
they probably
again,
pay for the whole operation.
You know, there's cities around this country that have actually made it illegal to collect your own rainwater from off your roof.
So I was laughing to myself then. I sneaked a viable first step in. You're gonna laugh at this. You ready for it? Sneak LSD into the drinking water.
Right, just like The Men That Stare at Goats. That was a great movie.
Yeah, LSD in the drinking water. No one know where it hit him. It'd be crazy out there.
Or like that movie in Ireland where they put the what was it? What do you call that? That's the Viagra. They put the Viagra in the water well.
Oh, dear.
And the whole city thrived. It was funny.
Well, you know, every pharmaceutical ever made is in the water now, eh? Because it goes right through your body.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yep.
So we're being drugged every which way from Sunday, and it's just ridiculous because, you know, people who take care of their health, they're being convinced that they need vaccines on top of that. Well, if you're taking care of your health, everybody knows that, you know, plumbers don't get colds very much, you know, because they're dealing with sewage and stuff. And, you know, like, get a clue. I mean, this is the way we inoculate ourselves is by working, by exposing yourselves to the elements. And instead, people are trading in, well, just eat at McDonald's and then take vaccines, and that'll make up for all the ill health from the food. Well, it's ridiculous. Just because I go up to a drive-through window, it doesn't mean I shouldn't get real food. Why would I ever want to put anything other than what's proper in my stomach? You know, that's another thing I've been asking since I was a very young boy.
What you just said reminded me that there should be certain products that are non-profit making, if such thing could ever exist. And one of the things that comes to mind is filtration systems, water filters. This water filter shouldn't be about making a profit on selling a water filter because it's health orientated. It's safer for you to drink filtered water. So, why are these things still being sold at,
another
200% premium or whatever?
Yeah, and you can look at Tullio Simoncini, who's been curing cancer with baking soda. Well, people who make chemotherapy drugs, $7,000 a month supply, some of them, that tells you why they don't want you curing cancer with baking soda.
Profit over
like
people.
The whole healthcare. As far as I'm concerned, all of healthcare, you don't create a marketable product. And so just like public transportation, which is always socialized, always subsidized by the government, you need to subsidize healthcare. But what they're doing in the States is nothing of the sort. I mean, that's fascistized, not subsidized. They're forcing you. Socialized medicine is where you're supposed to not pay for it, right? And here everybody's being made to pay double, triple what they were paying for. That's not socialized. That's gangster.
Well, you realize subsidy is a massive control mechanism, right?
Well, that's the way it's being used. I mean, it's being manipulated. That's why people say, fiat money system is the problem. No, fiat money system isn't the problem. The problem with fiat money system is that it's manipulated. But, you can have a perfectly functioning economy with fiat money. You just got to have honesty behind it. You got to have transparency. You got to have representation. And we have none of that right now. So we're being distracted again and again by all these arguments. Fiat money is the problem. No, it's not. It's corruption. It's always corruption that's the problem.
But that's the idea of the programming, to confuse so that no one knows where to start. No one knows what to address.
And I was doing
and it's working, Nick. At the moment, it's working.
Yeah.
Now
which is why I'm
back
trying
to. Never mind.
Go ahead, Olive.
I was going to say, now you're back to the Nassara law. That's it. That takes care of everything that you're talking about, Nick and Wingman.
Well, link to that.
National Economic Security and Reformation Act. And it gets rid of all those who were in Congress, all the shit, like you said, Nick, the parasites, the archon parasitical entities, they're gone. And then new people come in who are lawfully voted in. That's just one piece of this law that's on the books now. It is a law, but there was a gag order by the U.S. Supreme Court holding it, telling no one could talk about it.
That's just brought to mind another viable first step. How about as another viable first step, trying to kind of simplify what Olive said? Then it would be to seize control of the nomination process, whether it's in the legislature. I can never say that word. Legislature or parliament. Would that work? Is that a viable first step? In other words, if we suddenly, if we're in control of the voting system, per se, we can vote whoever we want into power that we know can do the job, as opposed to is being sold to us that they can do the job.
Well, one thing we got to do is stop thinking that we're voting them into power and start thinking like we're voting them into service.
Right.
Okay, they don't rule over us.
Is what I just said? Could you reword what I just said? Is it viable? Am I off the mark, or am I on the mark, or?
I'm sorry, I pick on little words, things here and there.
No, it's important. This is actually when you're talking about this kind of stuff, the terminology is really important. Otherwise, you get ambiguity and you lose people again. So I'm not scolding you for, being pedantic, because I think you need to be in this kind of thing,
Right.
So go ahead. How would you put it?
Oh, well. The political system, I remember growing up here and everybody complaining about the political system. At least they knew to complain about it. Nobody's complaining about it now. It's 10 times worse than it was when I was a kid, and yet nobody's complaining at all. Nobody even cares.
Is taking control of it an optional viable first step? Is taking control, whatever that means, of the election process a viable first step?
Yeah. Well,
anyone else?
The election process or the political process in general.
The Nassara law. There's no other way. I don't know. You can't get a bunch of people together and start, take over the White House. What do you want to do there, Wingman? I mean, you have to get rid of the parasites that are in there first, right?
You can if you take control of the election process and introduce whoever it is you want to serve the people.
Yeah, the media.
I don't want to wait.
The media will never cover it. You know how that goes.
Yeah, and I don't want to wait for the election. I want to do it tomorrow myself. I'm not waiting 4 years. Every 4 years we have a state. No, we have a state 365 days a year.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to still write it down, because I quite like that people understand why they might disagree with it, if that makes sense. Yeah? Do you get me? Yeah? So I've written it down. I'll put an X next to it, but I think it's worth writing down because I've heard it mentioned before.
It's going to take a military coup to get anything done.
Whoa. Hold it there. A, B, C, D, E, F. We're on F. A military coup. Please go on. Please go on. How do you spell coup?
COUP.
Thank you. Carry on.
But yeah, that's going to be the only way. That's the only strong arm that's going to be able to help us. Paperwork these days, it's just a joke. You go into any courtroom, it's a kangaroo court. You're dealing with a banker, not a judge. The attorney works for the banker, not for you. and it's just, it's a runaround at this point. So, unfortunately, I think it's going to take a strong arm, some generals or whoever's left. There's another article here. Military is about to take out 1,100 more captains, okay, and 500 more majors in early July. So, yeah, thanks, Obama. That's from military.com. They're getting rid of all the leaders. Something's going on here.
Cortex. By the way, I wouldn't be as so bold as to say it is the solution, but I do side with that being a very viable first step with regards to exploring further.
No,
So
I think what Rectify said is very fundamental, that these leaders that are good and honorable men and women in the force, whether it's CIA, FBI, and higher-ups, they're afraid that something's going to happen to their family, but a lot of them go ahead and whistle-blow. And they all got to blow that whistle at the same time, like you're saying, Wingman. It's all got to be done at once. There's got to be a rush. Not just 5 people, because then they either take them out or don't show it on the media. But if everyone somehow was able to connect and do it at the same time, simultaneously, then it would work.
Okay, so just temporarily, I put a plus against that one because in the short term, I do see that as one of the best viable short-term solutions. So I put a plus next to that. And I'm explaining the process as I go along. I just want to mention something that Cortex said. I've been missing chat for a bit because I've been trying to write this down and follow at the same time. Cortex said, first step is to manage the energy we use. Step 2, the energy we give. Each of these would affect the time we personally have, giving more time to work out the management of the system. So I'll write that down as well, Cortex, which is to manage the energy we use as a viable first step. And yeah, bearing in mind if you look at, I've mentioned the 10 branches that prop up the whole system, the whole paradigm that we live by, and energy is one of them. It's a branch, it's a leg on the tripod, if you want to call it that, for sure. So yeah, this is good stuff.
Energy is abundant and should be free for everyone. Then we can be creative and actually evolve like we're supposed to, not be stuck at this peasant level.
Yeah.
But we're about out of time. We got about 2 minutes left. So last words, Nick, and then Olive, and then Wingman.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know. No, this is all very good. I appreciate you letting me on, and appreciate all the listeners out there and all the hard work, all the, everybody's doing, Nighthawk and everything. And Rectify, I really hope you keep getting better, keep getting stronger, and, keep coming back. And
hey, and all the donations for the month, we met our goal. So thank you. You guys keep the blood flowing here at the station.
Well, Rectify, thanks for having me. It was a good show, great show. And I gave you my 2 things I say, and I leave you with that: sovereign birthright to land and the Nassar law now.
Can you drop a link to Nassara information in the chat?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Wingman.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this show. And guys, if you think I'm barking up the right tree, then please do pressure me to carry on along these lines and facilitate the process. I have written everything we've talked about with regards to the viable first steps. I've got 2, 4, 6, 7 of them at the moment. I personally would like us to carry on in this direction as much as we can. So if you feel the same way or this is resonating with you, keep it up as well and help me help you, so to speak. But otherwise, it's been very enjoyable.
Yeah, good round table, everybody. Once again, I wanted to thank Justin for helping out last week in production, and Jer Bear, and also Seth Michael. Awesome engineers and producers. They cover each other's butt here. We're all family, so that's what we do, and none of us get paid. We're all volunteering. So all your donations go to pay for all the utility bills, all the backups, all the servers, all the hosts, all the hosts as far as server hosts. But yeah, thank you again for meeting our goal with 11 days left. That's just awesome. But yeah, we'll be back. This has been the Gray Zone. We'll see you next Monday night, early Tuesday morning at 2 a.m. Eastern. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Rectify out.